Hey, hi Kunal. Welcome to Capital Circuit. It's an honor to host you today. We have a large audience, super excited to hear your thoughts on a lot of things fintech. We have a flurry of questions lined up, and as you requested, I will just let you, just speak for a minute and address the audience before I get into the questions.
Yeah, Karan, first of all, thank you so much for having me over here. I requested Karan to move from general Gyan session to more Q&A. It's a lot more fun in life. It keeps it fun for me as well. If you want to follow my Gyan, you can always follow me on social media. There is enough Gyan out there. This is a chance for me to interact. So I requested it to be a more of a Q&A session. But just a general thought, if we think that this is fintech scaled already, we have not seen anything yet. Uh, uh, One thing that is super interesting is all the companies that are big in fintech, their disruptors are already born. And they're already probably sitting in the audience today. And that's the fascinating thing about the rate of change that the industry is going through. All of us are constantly trying to keep up to what's going on. And it's not for the faint-hearted. You don't know what's coming your way constantly. The good news is, thanks to COVID, there's a huge reset in consumer behavior, and every single customer is ready for doing all things with money way more efficiently, making it probably the best 10 years ahead of us in the industry to build.
Wow, wow, that sounds amazing, Kunal. Thanks for that. I'll start with the thematics of the first question. So basically, when we talk about fintech, there are a lot of segments which are emerging. So one way to look at it is wealth tech, insure tech, invest tech, etc. The other play is the audience segment, which I believe CRED is looking at, like a super app for a particular audience size, which is profitable. Then there's another play on the infrastructure side, which is where Yubi comes into play. So the community really wants to know what is the most exciting segment in fintech, according to you, right now in the coming future, and your thoughts around this.
I think all of these segments will do really, really well. One must realize that the country is ARPU is locked in financial services and not in consumption. If you look at India's 500 odd billion dollars of retail consumption, and if you remove food and grocery from it, we are probably at $250 million approximately on other retail consumption. But if you look at the amount of money that is made on financial services, or let's say half of our public market cap is directly or indirectly linked to financial services. And therefore, it's going to be a long while till this category will do well. And I think fintech will attract the highest amount of investment, the highest amount of scrutiny for the right reasons, and constantly unlocking of tailwinds that are going to keep pushing things forward. My strong view is that it's going to be very, very powerful uh, current through which many companies will move forward. Sometimes you'll not realize if your boat is moving you fast or the water is moving fast and your boat happens to be there. So I believe that all companies will do well. The one category where I think it will be a long time before success will be seen is deposits. I believe that the amount of trust banks have managed to garner over decades of being around, and by protected by the regulator, I don't see that category being impacted in any manner. I believe that banks will have the biggest foothold, but banks may create more partnership with fintechs to attract deposits through partnership models, which I think is going to thrive in a big way. But I believe that lending, on the other hand, will become wherever the demand is, right? So I think it's going to be a lot more democratic when it comes to, let's say, unsecured lending. But when it comes to deposits, I think the concentrations will remain. So the color of money is very different when it comes to deposit, and it's very different when it comes to borrowing money.
That's an interesting perspective. Nice. So I think another thematic which the community wants to know, and this is more addressed to you. Uh, you continuously switch hats between Kunal Shah, the angel investor, and Kunal Shah, the operator and the builder of CRED. So when you switch these hats, what changes? What are the how do you make that change, and what do you think? If you can abstract the kind of variables which change when you switch these hats.
I think at the heart of it, even CRED is not just one business. There are many businesses running within the company and many new businesses being built as we speak. I think what I remain interested in is being curious about how businesses evolve and how they work. And I think at the heart of it, that's the curiosity that is driving both CRED as a business and me as an investor. But the way I operate as an investor is not so much for making money. I think of this as a giving back to the community. I do not have investments in stocks or mutual funds or any of that. I only invest in startups. And I think I've got everything from the ecosystem. It's my task to kind of keep paying it forward and help the next set of fintech founders or any consumer founders where I can help. And therefore, you will see me in probably all competing fintechs, be it neo banks or neo cards or any of them. I happen to be in all of them. The reason is I believe that everybody can win. Wealth and market cap is not zero sum. It's going to keep expanding. And we have all opportunity to create billions of dollars of companies in times to come.
Very interesting. In fact, at Capital Circuit, we had Mr. Devdutt Patnaik yesterday, talking about the true value of wealth, where, he also mentioned the same, on the similar lines that, wealth or investment is actually more of giving back than actually a means just to create wealth. So that's very interesting. I believe you are a lot into, of course, multiple interests, and I don't know what's your view on the Vedic side of things, but I'll leave it for a later time. So one quick question coming is, the whole debate about building in public versus building in stealth, and what's the an interlinked question is, what's the right time? So what if today was day one for CRED, right? Would you immediately, would you wait for product readiness, or would you distribute from day one? And what is the interplay, between these two, and what is your advice does to the builders of today and tomorrow?
I think it's a function of what stage of company you are and what kind of capital support do you have, right? CRED, because I could raise a large amount of seed round, and that's a luxury and privilege that many founders may not have. It was very similar for me during free charge days. I would not have any capital to kind of support the business. So I had to do whatever I can with the limited capital I had. So founders who are doing it for the first time and do not have proven capability naturally have to demonstrate traction and a lot more prudence in the way they are building business. And they can't say that, oh, I'll choose to monetize 2 years later, right? Which is what CRED did. It may not be a privilege available to everybody, and therefore copying that blindly without understanding the nuance of capital adequacy is going to be an important nuance that will get missed out if you do that. Having said that, it does make sense to have a community that engages a lot more, because financial services products are by design bought infrequently. Except a few products, most products are bought infrequently. And therefore, having a relationship means having frequent interactions where there is a chance when they need something, they're likely to call on you and buy that product from you, right? If you think about it, historically, banks have been the biggest rent payers on a high street, which is otherwise very crowded with retail. The reason they do that because they probably had the highest amount of revenue generated per square feet amongst other retailers, right? But they were able to build a store of their own amongst a traffic that was generated by multiple other retail formats in market that existed. And the way they could pay for that is just pay rent for it. But if you think about the modern age, businesses, digital businesses, there is no street where you can just put your branch and start getting customers. You have to build your own street. You have to build your own traffic. The analogy I often give to people is the way to think about is that historically, all the shops next to temples made more revenue per square feet than shops that were away from temple, because temple automatically was gifted with DAU, right? So historically, what a lot of businessmen did is they started building their own temples so that they can have their own traffic of their own. And suddenly we have a country with so many temples, right? Because they all became this engagement driver of its own. So I do believe that just the way this is split historically, a lot of companies will have to build their temple equivalent DAU creator and hopefully cross-sell that with some product in the future.
Wow, that's a phenomenal thought. Obviously, that's where we see, strategically CRED, taking that position, and glad to hear that. You spoke about prudence, and especially not just in this environment, but in general. While I think prudence in financial, from the financial lens becomes very important. So one question is around the customer acquisition, right? And specifically because we see a lot of increased competition, a lot of new players mushrooming up, the cost of customer acquisition going very high. The classic question of the waterfall of brand marketing and performance marketing. Of course, both have a different role to play, but would love to hear your thoughts on in the journey of building. When does what role and when does brand comes in, and when should what should be the role of performance, and if there's any mental model around that you would want the creators and builders to know.
I think the right way to think about this is brand marketing is a luxury that you can afford if you have some capital with you. But the primary purpose of brand marketing is to create trust and awareness, right? It may not necessarily lead to conversion unless your value proposition is very clear for people to try right away. But otherwise, what brand marketing does necessarily is create trust. And in India, it does matter for you to be well known, right? A well known creates a lot of trust for consumers to engage with you, because an app story, people will not just land up, people are not just curious and searching on app store, and they will come. That's one. Two is we are not an efficiency seeking nation by design. So we are not looking for shortcuts in life here. How do I pay my bills faster? How do I track all my credit cards? There's no inherent need to seek efficiency. And therefore, you have to demonstrate that through some of these initiatives. And sometimes you can do an influencer campaign. Sometimes you can build your own Instagram page, which has a lot of followers in it. Sometimes you can create a dramatic ad campaign. It doesn't matter. There are many methods to arrive at the same outcome. But the truth remains is that you can bring customers whatever way you want. If the product does not appeal, there is not going to be any retention, right? And I think a lot of people underestimate the power of focusing on retention more than customer acquisition. And therefore, the problematic word is CAC, because people keep thinking that CAC is only about getting them to do one thing. The true CAC is about retained customers. And if you look at your CAC on retained customer basis, can be very large and may not justify your business. And therefore, a lot of startups die because their LTV to their actual cost of CAC just does not match, because nobody focuses on retention, right? And retention is not an afterthought. You have to have retention as part of your day one plan. Yeah. That how do we ensure that it is going to be always about retaining customers versus constantly acquiring them, because you can throw in some incentives here and then people will come. What will make them stay, right? And I think that's the truth. Other thing is about thinking about performance and other things. They're all additional aids. But I can tell you one thing: if you are competing publicly in a platform where everybody's auctioning for keywords, you're less likely to really be successful. You have to find your unique channels that are proprietary to you to grow, to really remain competitive. Because if you're going to get subjected to ad platforms, then I can guarantee you that they will suck all the gross margins that is potential in your business forever.
That's a brilliant point. There's a little joke going around in marketing circles that either Google and Facebook will get profitable, or you will, because that's how
Yeah.
it's almost getting to. So obviously, I think big lesson for marketers to build proprietary channels. I think that's a big takeaway. Uh, and totally with you when you say that the frequency is very important. That's why you choose your business model. Likewise, so that the LTV to CAC actually gets underway, and this is the thinking to be done at the beginning of the startup journey. Which brings me to the point that we've seen that CRED is heavily, or I would say, over invested in the design-led product experience. Now we all know, broadly, but I would love to hear from from you that why is that?
I think, first of all, appreciation of beauty and appreciation of design is not a phenomena that is applicable to hundreds of millions of customers. There's a small amount of customers that care about design, beauty, aesthetics. And I think the moment you focus on that, you appeal to them as if it's like them, right? So it creates a familiarity saying that, hey, this is what I would aspire to be, and sometimes even be of a higher aspiration than what they are imagining for most companies to be. Because most companies believe that, oh, jaldi jaldi ship karo fast. It doesn't matter UI, UI, it's okay. Like you can have all sorts of bad design and people will anyways do it. That's a very old way of doing things. When customers have choices, they will go to nicer places. It's like difference between old dharamshalas and hotels versus the new 5 stars, right? When customers can afford, they will not go to bad experiences. They will want the UI and the design to be great. And you can say, yeah, sleeping in a hotel is sleeping in the hotel. It's not. There's a reason people spend on a 5 star, right? That's one. The second thing is beauty inherently creates more trust, right? When something is well designed, you naturally feel that this is more trustworthy. A lot of people take a shortcut on design because they want to optimize for speed. But imagine all of us when we experience an app that is not well designed and random fonts, and you are like, "Pata nahi, how can I give them 1 lakh rupees?"
Totally agree.
So I think that's where I would say that both brand and design play a huge role in matters of money. The example analogy I give often is that historically the banks in the US were inspired by the churches, and they used to have huge doors to enter the branch. So you feel really small when you walk in, that this is such a big place. Mera paisa leke kahan jayenge ye log, right? And how do you manifest something like this in the digital world? It has to be designed.
Wow, that's very interesting actually, because just like the in the study of semiotics, we see the symbols and the metaphors which are the which stand for trust. Very interesting, Kunal. Just one question. Again, because I believe at CRED as well, and at any rightful startup, there should be many experiments running to know more about the customer, what works, what doesn't. I think the pertinent question is that when is the time to kill an experiment, or pivot? Any learnings or thoughts would you like to share with the community?
First of all, I do believe that people with very good judgment require less experiments in life. So if you have managed to get a team that only believes and get conviction through experiments, then you have made a hiring mistake. Because good people, imagine a creative field. Let's say you are a movie director. Are you doing A/B experiments to launch the perfect movie? Like if a director is able to get successful movies all the time, वो कौन सा A/B experiment कर रहा है, right? So I think people who really understand core consumer behavior and they get that this will work are less likely to experiment. Only when you have people who do not understand consumer motivation, you're going to end up with a lot of people who only get conviction through experiments and data. That's one point. And you be careful about if you are that or if you've hired a lot of people like that. Number two is experiments very quickly give the results. You don't need to run it for many, many days. The results doesn't change. A good person with a good sense. Imagine, again, a movie analogy again. If you go to a movie and you are a seasoned guy who has made movies, watch one thing. Do you think you'll need like, oh, 5 दिन का box office का data देखते देखते शायद चलेगा ये? नहीं, you know it in the first 1 hour कि ये movie डब्बा है, नहीं चलने वाला है. Right? So the question is that when you have to ask this question, should I kill or not? Most likely you're supposed to kill it. Because when you know it's working, you don't need any questions like this in life.
No, absolutely. Like they say, before the advent of entrepreneurial led marketing and business building, right? In the era of the MNCs, most research was actually done, just to support a hypothesis which is already there, right? So what I'm taking away from this is that knowing your customer, investing in actually spending time with your customer or prospects will go and work much harder than just running experiments.
Building and product is an art form. And by design, only a few people are likely to get it. Just empower them a lot more.
And that's a brilliant thought. Great, Kunal. I'll continue, doing the time.
Maybe a quick question. I need to jump.
Yes.
You can do one quick question.
Sure, Kunal. So I think one last question, which everyone is curious to know and get some advice rather, is on raising funds and selling the vision, selling what we are building would look like 10 years, 20 years down the line. Any thoughts on that you would like to leave the group with?
Yeah, I think first of all, again, I'm gonna rely on analogies to explain how fundraising works. Fundraising is a lot like arranged marriage, right? Both parties don't know much about each other, and they are relying on some basic signals to decide if it's a good idea to invest behind this or not, right? And therefore, in absence of a lot of data, people look at, let's say, early stage. People look at, oh, what are your education qualifications? Which companies did you work for? What is your past resume? And based on that, they choose to give you capital. As you get to a later stage in life, it's all about your metrics, right? You can sell all the visions you want. If your metrics are doing well, then you don't need sell to vision, right? Like you think a large company like HDC needs to sell vision to really raise capital. If they ever choose to do some more capital raising, the question is that the numbers speak for themselves. The narrative is required at the stages where numbers have not made it yet, and you want people to believe in the venture, right? And that's when the articulation is important. But even there, I would say that it is best when people come to you versus you go pitch to people. I can tell you with confidence that people who pitch a lot rarely raise money. The people who have managed to raise a lot more capital have figured out a way for people to walk up to them and be curious about their business because they have demonstrated some metrics in the market that people talk about them a lot more, right? That the investor are naturally more interested in them, right? And I think it helps to be in the right circles of people of getting noticed. And I can tell you one thing, investors are very prudent people. They know when something is moving and something is going up. They will find you. If you have to go and pitch to 25 people, it is likely that you're not likely to raise capital.
Phenomenal advice. I think this, we can benefit a lot from this. Any closing remarks? Because I know you have asked. I don't want to hold you.
I would just say that don't enter fintech if you are not somebody who likes chaos. It is going to be chaos for a long period of time. And only when you thrive during chaos is when you're going to be successful in fintech. If you have chosen this, just know it's going to be, I don't know if you'll get success, but it'll always be exciting. Success is a function of many variables and luck plays a huge role. But just know that it's going to be super exciting. there is merit in collaborating. Fintechs do well when they help each other. There is enough to be had. There is enough in the market for each of us to do well. I would request everybody to not think of this as academic thing कि यार 10 ही सीट है और सबको copy नहीं करने देना है. I think I would say generously copy from each other's notes because there is a lot more that is still to be done, and we are going to at least have maybe just 500 unicorns just in financial services in maybe 10 to 15 years to come. So it's just getting started.
Wow, that's phenomenal. Thank you so much for your time, Kunal. It was an honor having you on Capital Circuit, and we would want to have you on the next edition as well. Have a great day ahead, and thanks a lot again for being with us and sharing your thoughts.
Thank you so much. Bye bye.